Hi, and welcome back to the shop. In this episode, I'm going to build a set of modern end tables with a walnut veneer. Very clean, modern design. If you'd like to build this project, I'll have a link to the plans right here and down in the description below. I've already cut the parts for the cabinet to size, and I just realized that before I start to assemble the cabinet, I should veneer the inside of the back and the inside of the sides first. Here's a rough drawing of the project. 2 drawers, and you can see how the inside of the sides will be visible. And I think the easiest solution is to veneer this now before the cabinet is assembled. The back you probably won't see unless you're very low on the floor, but I'm going to go ahead and veneer that anyway. I have the veneer laid out on a table on top of a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, so I have something to cut into. And since I'm cutting the veneer this early in the project, I'm going to cut the most important parts first, label them, and put them off to the side. And the most important parts are the parts that are going to wrap around the cabinet. So I want to have a left, a top, and a right, so I get that waterfall effect. So I've set my straight edge up, and I'll go ahead and make the cut. I'll double check my measurement. That looks good. And I'll make the cut in probably 2 or 3 passes. When I make the cut, I want to make sure that I don't move the straight edge with the knife. Support for this project is provided by GL Veneer. Visit GL Veneer at glveneer.com to see their large selection of wood veneer and live edge slabs. Now that I've made the rip, I'll make the cross cuts and label the parts. I'll label this part with a left and an arrow pointing towards the front. This part is the top. Again, the front. And this piece is the right side of the cabinet. Okay, and that was my last cut on the veneer. The parts for the inside of the cabinet are over here. The parts for the outside of the cabinet are labeled and over there. And I'll be using this for the drawer fronts. And I'll cut this once the drawers and drawer fronts are made. Now I'm ready to start veneering the inside parts of the cabinet. I'm using Weldwood contact cement. I've lined my paint tray with tin foil. And I'll apply the contact cement with a mohair roller. I like to apply 2 coats of contact cement to both surfaces, letting the first coat dry to touch, then applying the second coat, and once the second coat is dry, I'll attach the veneer and then trim the edges with a flush cut bit in the router. Now that I have the inside of the parts veneered, I've started to build the cabinet. I'll attach the sides to the back, making sure that I'm nice and flush at the top and the back. Use a little wood glue. Tack the parts in place with an 1¼ inch nail to keep them from shifting around, and then use an 1½ inch screw for a stronger connection. Now that I have the sides attached to the back, I'll take a measurement and cut the top to size. Now that I have the top on, I'll make the molding that will cover the edge of the plywood. The cabinet does get a bottom, but I'm going to hold off on that until the molding is applied, and that'll help me determine how deep I want to make the bottom, which is also the bottom drawer support. I'm making the molding out of solid walnut, and I get started by ripping the walnut to just a little bit heavier than 3/4 by 3/4 of an inch. Then I run the molding through the drum sander to remove the blade marks and bring the molding down to the same thickness as the plywood sides of the cabinet. I've milled the molding so it's nice and square, just about 3/4 by 3/4, nice and flush on the inside and the out. And I'm going to cut a 45-degree angle facing towards the inside for a slight design detail. With the front of the cabinet trimmed out, I'll add the bottom of the cabinet, which is also what the bottom drawer will run on, and it's also the bottom drawer stop. And sometimes I like to make a jig like this just to double check to see how things are going to work out. This lets me know that the front of the drawer will kind of divide this reveal here in half. I like the way that looks, so now I'll go ahead and cut the bottom to length. Quick shout out to W.L. Fuller. You'll see me use their countersink bits all the time. By far my favorite bits, way better than anything that you're going to find at the home store. And I'll put a link to the countersink bits that I use down in the description below. With the bottom of the cabinet attached, I'll add 2 drawer runners for the top drawer, and I'll cut the drawer runners the same length as the drawer bottom. And you can test your cut. If you're flush with the bottom of the cabinet, you're good. After cutting the drawer runners to length, I'll use the drill press to pre-drill and countersink 3 evenly spaced holes. I'm using a scrap piece of wood to set the drawer runner. This is the same depth as both drawers. I'll use a little wood glue tack the drawer runner in place and then use a few screws for a stronger joint. Now that I have the cabinet built and the drawer runners installed, I'll get to work on the drawers. I got started on the drawers by rough cutting the parts to size, which means I cut them a little heavy. Then I went over the top edge of the plywood with iron-on edge banding to hide the edge of the plywood. Now I'll rip the parts to width. After making the first rip, I'll test it out to make sure it's good. It's good at the bottom. That's good at the top. Now I'll finish cutting the rest of the parts. I thought I'd share this quick tip with you because we've all made dumb mistakes in the shop. A simple mistake you could make here is to accidentally rip the edge banding off. So to help prevent that, I've lined my material up with the edge banding pointing this way. So each piece will come from this section or this side of the fence, come over, I'll make the rip, and then put it back. So anything to help prevent those dumb mistakes that happen to all of us when we're building something in the shop. Now that I have all the drawer parts cut to width, I'll set up a stop block and cut the parts to length, starting with the drawer sides. To get the measurement for the drawer fronts and backs, I've doubled up the drawer sides. I'll take a measurement from the side of the cabinet. It's 15 inches. I've cut one of the parts at 15 inches. We'll test the fit. That looks good. So now I'll cut the rest of the parts to size. I have all the parts cut to length and width. The next step is to cut the groove to accept the drawer bottoms. I've set the fence at 3/8 of an inch, lowered the blade to 1/4 of an inch. Now I'll cut a groove in a piece of scrap wood and all the drawer parts except for the drawer backs. After cutting the groove in the test piece and all the drawer parts, I move the fence over about 1/8 of an inch at a time until I get to what is close to the thickness of the drawer bottom. I'll test the fit on the scrap piece, and if it's good, I'll cut the last pass on all the drawer parts. With the groove cut and all the drawer parts, I'll raise the blade, keep the fence exactly where it is, and cut through the drawer back. With the drawer fronts, backs, and sides finished, I'll cut the drawer bottoms to size. Now that I have all the parts cut to size, I'm ready to build the drawers. And I'm going to build these drawers with pocket hole screws. I've never done that before, but I've seen it done with good results. I've marked out where I want to drill my holes, so let's go ahead and get to it. I'm setting the drawer backs in 2 inches. That way when the drawer is pulled all the way out, it doesn't fall out of the cabinet. This is a piece of scrap wood that I'm using for my measurement. And when I attach the backs, I'll make sure I attach the backs over the X. I'm using a little wood glue, and I'll tack the parts in position with a pin nailer just to keep them from moving around while I get a chance to screw them together. I like to add a bead of glue in the groove at the front of the drawer. Then I'll slide the drawer bottom in place and attach it to the drawer back with 3 evenly spaced screws. With the drawers made, I've moved on to making the drawer fronts. I've already cut the plywood drawer fronts to size, and you will want to hide the edge of the plywood. There's 2 ways to do that. You can use the iron-on edge banding, or you can use a 1/4-inch molding that you can simply make on your table saw. I happen to think the 1/4-inch molding looks a little nicer, so that's what I'm going to do. You just want to remember that the 1/4-inch molding measures a 1/4 of an inch, so cut your plywood a 1/2 of an inch smaller than your final measurement. With the drawer fronts finished, I'll get to work on the outside of the cabinet and get started with the back. I like to use 2 coats of contact cement. I feel the first coat really absorbs into the material and doesn't give you that great of a bond. By applying a second coat, it sits on the surface a little bit more, and I've always felt that you get a better bond with 2 coats of contact cement. So I'll let the first coat dry to touch, then I'll apply the second coat, and once that coat is dry, I'll use the sticks to help me position the veneer so I have an even reveal around all 4 sides. After applying the veneer to the back, I'll trim the edges with a flush cut bit in the router, sand away any of the fuzz or the residue that's left behind, and then apply the veneer to the sides and eventually the top, and of course the drawer fronts as well. With all the veneer applied, a final sanding, and I'm finally ready for finish. I'm finishing this project with 3 coats of satin lacquer, sanding in between coats with 320 sandpaper. I'll pre-drill and countersink holes on the inside of the drawer to attach the drawer fronts. Since I've come this far without making any major mistakes, I made this simple jig that helps me to make sure that I'm drilling the holes for the drawer knobs in the right position. Now I can attach the drawer fronts to the drawers, screwing through the holes that I just drilled for the knobs with 1 1/4-inch screws. I'll use 2 shims to make sure that I have an even reveal between the top and bottom drawer, and attach the drawer front with 1 1/4-inch screws as well. Now I can remove the drawers and attach the drawer fronts from behind with 4 1/4" screws. Now I can remove the screws in the drawer fronts, finish drilling the holes through the drawer box, and mount the hardware. Okay, well that is it for this end table. I know that I did say I'm going to build 2, and I will, but I'm going to veneer the second one with PSA backed veneer, which is a pressure sensitive adhesive. It's a lot like working with a sticker. So I want to make a separate video on that. I'll already have the cabinet built and really just focus on the veneer. But I really like the design, very simple, definitely an approachable project. It's like anything, just take your time when you're working on something. A lot of times it's better to take a little extra time on the setup than trying to work fast and then making a mistake, because we all know that mistakes take longer to fix than doing it right in the first place. If you'd like to build this, I will have plans on my website, or they're on there right now. You can click on the link, I think right here, or down in the description below. I'm really excited to partner with GL Veneer. I'm going to be their brand ambassador. So a lot more veneer projects, some really small kind of fun projects, some bigger projects, lots of shorts and reels focusing on some of the details that sometimes you just don't have the time to go into them on a project build, because there's so much nuance in every woodworking project, and there's always more than one way to do things. So I'm hoping to get into all that stuff. And one other thing about the hardware on this cabinet, I ordered some very minimal hardware. It didn't come in yet. So I ended up taking these drawer pulls off of a cabinet that's in my dining room. It was a used piece of furniture that I bought maybe 30 years ago. I can't believe I'm even saying that, 30 years. But I refinished it and replaced the hardware with this. And since I wanted to finish this video up, I just used that hardware. So if you're looking for hardware, if you build this cabinet, I would just go with something very minimal. Eventually, when that hardware comes in, I'll replace it and probably put up a short YouTube video or Instagram reel, something like that. So again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to build the furniture for your home, please visit my website at johnpeters.com for a large variety of furniture projects and plans available. From beginner to advanced woodworking projects, I'm sure you'll find a project that will match your woodworking skill level and taste in furniture. Each project has step-by-step video tutorials right here on YouTube designed to help guide you through the project and help you build something I know you'll be proud of. Thanks again, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's a great way to help me continue to make long-format project videos just like this one.